Tears. When God decided to create the first mother, he dedicated 6 days and 6 nights of relentless work. A deity observed from afar, seeing God's meticulous and devoted efforts, and couldn't help but wonder about the long hours he spent. Finally, unable to contain his curiosity, the deity approached and asked, "Why are you spending so much time and effort on this creation?" God paused, looked at the deity, and smiled. "Do you know that I am creating a miracle? A mother must be a special creation with many abilities and qualities that no one else can match." The deity, even more intrigued, asked, "What are these qualities, Lord?" God gently replied, "A mother must have the ability to heal herself and transform through all the ups and downs of life. She must be strong to protect and nurture her family, but also gentle enough to feel and love. She must be able to maintain love and hope even in the most challenging circumstances." The deity asked again, "But why does she need to be gentle?" God sighed softly. "Her gentleness is expressed through her tears. They are not just a sign of sadness, but also of joy, pride, and boundless love. Those tears are the language of the heart, allowing her to express her deepest emotions, from the utmost joy of seeing her children grow up to the pain of witnessing their struggles." God continued his work, paying attention to the smallest details. The deity saw God assemble each piece, from strong yet gentle hands to a heart always filled with love. "Every part of a mother is created with careful consideration," God said. "Her hands are not just for working, but also for embracing, comforting, and protecting. Her eyes are not just for seeing, but also for perceiving the things her heart feels." The deity gradually understood, looking at God's creation with deep respect. "It's truly miraculous," the deity exclaimed. "A mother is indeed a perfect work of art, a marvel of creation." God smiled with satisfaction, looking at the first mother with eyes full of love and pride. "Life is a journey full of sorrows and joys, and a mother will be the one who understands and loves unconditionally. She will be the anchor, the guiding light, the inexhaustible source of strength for her family and those she loves." The deity nodded gently, then departed with deep respect and admiration. God continued his work, knowing that he had created a miracle, a mother with a heart full of love and strength, an eternal symbol of love and sacrifice. A mother embodies unconditional love, strength, and sacrifice. A mother's tears are the language of the heart, expressing the deepest and most sincere emotions. A mother's love and sacrifice are an inexhaustible source of motivation, a guiding light through all of life's ups and downs. 2. The power of gratitude. A young man who had recently graduated from university with outstanding achievements faced an important job interview for a managerial position at a large company. He passed all the interview rounds, and finally, the director decided to interview him personally. The director discovered that the young man had been excellent in his studies throughout his life. He asked, "Have you ever received a scholarship?" The young man replied, "Never. My father passed away when I was very young, and my mother took on all the financial burdens." The director continued, "What does your mother do for a living?" The young man answered, "My mother is a laundry woman." The director suggested, "Show me your hands." The young man presented his soft hands. The director asked, "Have you ever helped your mother with the laundry?" The young man replied, "Never. My mother wanted me to study and read books. Besides, she could do it faster than me." The director continued, "What does your mother do for a living?" The young man answered, "My mother is a laundry woman." The director suggested, "Show me your hands." The director said, "Go home and help your mother with the laundry. Come back and see me tomorrow." The young man went home and fulfilled the director's request. He helped his mother with the laundry and suddenly noticed his mother's hands, beautiful but scarred and calloused. For the first time, the young man realized the value of the work his mother had done and the suffering she had endured. The next day, the young man returned to the company. The director asked, "What did you learn from your time at home?" The young man replied with tears, "I learned the value of my mother and her hard work to provide for our lives. I understand the importance of family love." The director said, "That is what I need in a manager." "Congratulations, you have been selected." The young man became an excellent employee, respected by all his colleagues. The unity and sense of family helped the company thrive. In life and work, gratitude is an important virtue that earns you trust and respect. Gratitude helps build connections and leads to success, not only for individuals, but also for businesses. Always be grateful to your parents. Remember those who have sacrificed to give you the best life, and put your heart into the values of family. A journey from gratitude to happiness. The story of gratitude. In a peaceful small town, there was a famous tavern owned by Mr. Wong. Mr. Wong was a simple and kind-hearted man who always opened his doors to welcome guests from near and far. One day, a highly virtuous Zen master came to the town. He had no money and no place to stay, so he went to Mr. Wong's tavern to ask for lodging. The tavern owner, with her benevolent and hospitable heart, did not hesitate to welcome the Zen master. He stayed at the tavern for 3 years. During that time, Mr. Wong and the tavern owner treated him like family, caring for and respecting him sincerely. Before leaving to show his gratitude, the Zen master decided to dig a well behind the house. Miraculously, the water from the well was not only pure, but also transformed into fine wine. From then on, Mr. Wong's tavern became famous far and wide, attracting many customers and bringing prosperity to his family. As time went by, the tavern grew more successful, but so did the greed. Mr. Wong and the tavern owner began arguing about not having enough wine to sell to the customers. Gratitude gradually got overshadowed by greed and the desire for profit. One day, the Zen master returned to visit the tavern. The tavern owner complained to him about not having enough wine to sell. Hearing this, the Zen master quietly smiled and wrote a sentence on the wall. "Heaven and earth are vast, but human greed knows no bounds." Even with wine to sell, a heart without gratitude is never satisfied. As soon as he finished writing, the Zen master disappeared, and miraculously, the wine in the well gradually dried up along with him. The tavern lost its source of fine wine and could no longer attract customers as before. Mr. Wong and the tavern owner realized the profound lesson from the Zen master. They understood that gratitude and humility were the true values, not greed and selfishness. From then on, they decided to change their way of life, appreciating what they had and treating everyone around them well. The tavern was no longer as famous as it used to be, but it became a warm and loving place. Mr. Wong and the tavern owner lived a simple but happy life, always remembering the valuable lesson the Zen master had taught them. Gratitude and humility are more valuable than material possessions. Greed and selfishness will lead to loss and suffering. Appreciating what you have and treating everyone around you well will bring true happiness. The power of silent kindness. One afternoon, after a heavy rain, a small stream by the roadside became more turbulent and difficult to cross than ever. A traveler happened to pass by and saw an old woman standing worriedly by the stream. She looked tired and scared, clearly unable to cross the rushing water on her own. With compassion, the traveler approached and said, "Ma'am, let me help you across the stream. After a moment of hesitation, the old woman agreed. The traveler gently carried her on his back and took cautious steps through the icy water. The water reached up to his knees, and the strong current made each step heavy and dangerous. When they finally reached the other side, the old woman didn't say a word. She just walked away silently. The traveler felt a bit disheartened and regretful. He had expected at least a word of thanks or a smile from the old woman. Instead, she disappeared down the winding path without looking back. Tired and soaked, the traveler continued his journey up the mountain. Though he felt a bit sad for not receiving any gratitude, he told himself that the most important thing was that the old woman had crossed the stream safely. A few hours later, as the traveler rested under a large tree, he saw a young man approaching. The young man had a donkey loaded with food and medicine. He stopped in front of the traveler and smiled gratefully. "Are you the one who helped my mother cross the stream?" he asked. The traveler nodded in surprise. The young man continued, "My mother told me about your help when she got home. She didn't get a chance to thank you because she was too exhausted. I brought some food and medicine to thank you for your kindness and bravery." The traveler felt relieved and warm inside. He realized that good deeds do not always receive immediate gratitude. Sometimes gratitude returns to us in unexpected and wonderful ways. The young man gave the traveler some food and medicine before continuing his journey. The traveler sat back, looked up at the clear blue sky, and felt joy spreading through his heart. He understood that in life, kind actions and good deeds will always be rewarded, even if we don't see it immediately. Good deeds don't require immediate thanks. Gratitude will come back to us in unexpected ways. Helping others not only benefits them, but also brings us a sense of purpose and joy in life. Compassion and kindness are precious values that need to be maintained and spread. Story of the grateful painter and the blind man. A woman once hired a painter to decorate her home. Upon arriving at the house, the painter was introduced to the woman's husband, a man who was blind in both eyes. Despite his blindness, the man radiated an infectious optimism and joy that immediately caught the painter's attention. As the days went by, the painter worked diligently on the project, carefully selecting colors and designs to bring warmth and beauty to the home. Every day, the blind man would join the painter, sitting nearby and engaging in lively conversations. They talked about life, dreams, and the beauty that exists beyond what the eyes can see. The painter found these discussions enriching, often losing track of time in the presence of the blind man's unyielding positivity. The blind man's stories were filled with vivid imagery, as if he could see the world more clearly than those with sight. He described sunsets he remembered from his childhood, the feeling of a gentle breeze, and the sound of birds singing at dawn. His descriptions were so evocative that the painter could almost see these scenes himself. The painter soon realized that these interactions were transforming his own outlook on life. He began to appreciate the small joys and overlooked details in his surroundings. The blind man's gratitude for the world, despite his inability to see it, made the painter reconsider his own perspective. Upon completing the project, the painter stood back to admire his work. The house was now a vibrant and inviting space, reflecting the warmth of its inhabitants. The woman was delighted with the transformation, and the blind man, though unable to see the changes, expressed his happiness through his wife's descriptions. When it came time to settle the bill, the painter handed over the invoice with a significantly reduced amount. Surprised, the woman asked why he had given such a generous discount. The painter smiled and said, "Working in your home and spending time with your husband has been a true gift. His optimism and joy have brought so much happiness into my life that I feel compelled to share that joy in return. This discount is my way of saying thank you." Tears welled up in the woman's eyes as she realized the profound impact her husband's attitude had on the painter. The blind man, sensing the emotional exchange, gently asked what was happening. When she explained, he smiled and said, "Gratitude is a beautiful thing. It seems we have all found it here." The painter left the home that day with a heart full of appreciation and a renewed sense of purpose. He realized that the true value of his work was not just in the money he earned, but in the connections he made and the happiness he could bring to others. True happiness and gratitude come from within and can profoundly impact those around us. Every encounter holds the potential for mutual enrichment, often in ways we cannot foresee. Sharing joy and positivity can create a ripple effect, spreading happiness far beyond the initial act. Bread. An American professor teaching at a university in Brazil often walked to school each morning. One day, while walking along the busy street, he felt a tug on his coat. Turning around, he saw a little boy around 5 or 6 years old, with bright, round eyes on a dirty, smudged face. The boy looked up at him with a pleading expression and said, "Sir, please give me a piece of bread." Usually, when encountering street children begging, he would coldly walk away, knowing he couldn't help them all. But this time, for some reason, he stopped, looked deeply into the hopeful eyes of the boy, and said, "Come with me." He led the boy into a nearby cafe. He bought him a piece of cake and some other food the boy wanted. He chose a cup of coffee for himself and quietly left the cafe, leaving the boy to enjoy his meal. He walked out of the shop, having already forgotten about the boy. But after a few steps, he felt someone bump into his back. Turning around, he saw the boy from earlier, still holding the piece of cake. The boy's small hands were trembling as he said in a gentle but emotional voice, "Thank you, sir." The professor stood still, deeply moved by the sincere gratitude of the little beggar. While he had helped many children before, he had never received such heartfelt thanks. In that moment, he realized that sometimes a small act of kindness can bring great joy to others and to oneself. From that day on, whenever he saw street children, he always remembered the bright eyes and genuine gratitude of that little boy. Compassion not only helps others, but also brings joy and happiness to oneself. Gratitude, no matter how small, can change a person's perspective and way of life. Always be willing to help others, as our small actions can create miracles. Dream. One day, a wealthy noble family from England took their son to the countryside for a vacation. While playing, tragedy struck. Their young son stumbled and fell into a deep river gorge. It seemed hopeless, with no way to save the boy who couldn't swim. Then, from afar, they heard a faint cry for help. A frail-looking boy, the son of a poor farmer in the area, ran to rescue him. The noble family was immensely grateful to the poor boy. Instead of just expressing thanks and giving him some money as a reward, the father kindly asked the boy, "When you grow up, what do you want to do?" The humble boy replied softly, "Sir, I will probably continue my father's farming profession." The nobleman persisted, "But don't you have any bigger dreams?" The boy fell silent, bowed his head for a moment, then answered honestly, "Well, sir, in our poor household, what else could I dream of?" With genuine concern, the nobleman asked again, "But if you were allowed to dream, what would you wish for?" And once again came an earnest reply, "Sir, I want to go to school. I want to become a doctor." Years later, the boy who once couldn't swim and was saved became a great hero, bringing pride to the entire nation of England. He became Prime Minister Winston Churchill. And the poor village boy, who once only dreamed by the riverside, became a world-renowned physician, also a benefactor of humanity by discovering the antibiotic penicillin. His name was Alexander Fleming. No one could have imagined that when the Prime Minister of England fell seriously ill, the entire kingdom sought out renowned doctors to try to save their supreme leader. They all failed. Then Dr. Fleming took it upon himself to come forward and once again save the life of the man he had once rescued. After their success, the boy from the past returned to repay the one who had helped him. Remember to be grateful to those who have helped you so that the goodness of life multiplies. Gratitude is expressed in every story in life, and it is a noble value in every human being. Help those around you, and don't forget to share these meaningful stories with more people. Jim and the Special Ice Cream. One summer afternoon in a bustling small town, there was a 10-year-old boy named Jim. Jim had heard much about a famous refreshment store in the city, renowned for its delicious fruit ice cream, which he dearly loved. One day, after saving enough money, Jim decided to treat himself to that ice cream. He gently pushed open the glass door of the store, and a small bell chimed to announce his arrival. The shop was lively with chatter and the sweet aroma of various ice creams. Jim chose an empty table and sat down, feeling the cool air from the air conditioner and the soft light from the hanging lamps. A young waitress approached, smiling gently, and placed a glass of water in front of Jim. Jim looked up at her and asked, "Excuse me, ma'am, how much is a fruit ice cream?" The waitress replied, "50 cents." Jim thought for a moment and then asked, "And how much is a regular ice cream?" Despite being very busy with many waiting customers, the waitress patiently answered, 35 cents. Jim smiled and said, "Then I'll have a regular ice cream, please." The waitress noted his order and returned to the counter. After a while, she brought Jim a regular ice cream with its smooth, white texture. Jim slowly enjoyed each spoonful of the ice cream, feeling the cold and sweet taste melt in his mouth, his eyes lighting up with happiness. When he finished, Jim stood up, left the money on the table, and left the store. The waitress came back to clear the table, and when she saw the money Jim had left, she paused. On the table were 2 nickels and 5 pennies, totaling 50 cents. Of that, 35 cents was for the regular ice cream Jim had ordered, and the remaining 15 cents was a tip he had left for her. The waitress was moved to tears. She never expected that the boy had foregone his favorite fruit ice cream just to save a little money for her. Jim's kindness and gratitude touched her heart, making her realize that sometimes the smallest actions can bring great joy and meaning. The story of Jim and the regular ice cream spread throughout the town, becoming a symbol of gratitude and kindness. From then on, whenever people saw an ice cream, they remembered the boy with a heart of gold and the lesson about caring and sharing with those around us. Life lessons. Gratitude and kindness, no matter how small, always bring great joy and meaning. Sometimes, sacrificing small things can make a big difference in someone else's life. Always appreciate and share with those around you, for kindness is a priceless gift. Lessons from Father. When I was 13 years old, my father would take me out every Saturday. Sometimes we'd visit the park or watch ships at the harbor. But what I loved most was visiting second-hand shops where I could admire and marvel at old electronics. Occasionally, my father would buy me something for 50 cents just so I could take it apart at home. On our way back from these short outings, my father often stopped at a place called Dairy Queen to buy me a 10-cent ice cream cone. It didn't happen every time, but it was frequent enough that I always hoped for it when we reached the decision point, the corner where my father would either turn toward the ice cream shop or head straight home. That corner held both anticipation and potential disappointment for me. There were times when my father would tease me by driving straight. "Today, we're taking this way just for a change," he'd say as we passed by Dairy Queen without stopping. Of course, he was only joking, and I never felt upset since he usually made sure I was content. The best days were when my father would casually ask, "Would you like an ice cream cone?" Double quotes ... To which I'd eagerly reply, "Yes, Dad, that would be great." I always chose chocolate while he picked vanilla. He would hand me 20 cents to go inside and buy our ice creams. We'd then sit in the car and enjoy them together. I loved my father and those ice cream cones. They were heaven to me. Then one day, just like any other, as we were heading home, I hoped to hear my father's familiar, melodic invitation for ice cream. And he did ask, "Do you want an ice cream cone today?" "Yes, Dad, that would be great," I replied. But this time, he added, "How about you treat me today?" 20 cents. My mind raced. I could easily afford it with my weekly allowance of 25 cents, plus extra from doing small chores. But saving money was important. My father had taught me that. Spending my money on ice cream felt like an unnecessary luxury. Why didn't I see it as a golden opportunity to give back to my generous father? Why didn't I realize that he had bought me dozens of ice creams, and I hadn't bought him even one? But all I could think of was 20 cents. Double quotes ... In a fleeting moment of selfishness and ingratitude, I said something that still haunts me. "No, if I have to pay, I don't want one," my father quietly said. "Okay, son." As we turned the corner to head home, I realized my mistake and pleaded with my father to turn back. "I'll treat you, Dad. Please, let's go back." But my father just said, "It's okay, son. We don't really need ice cream," and continued driving home. I felt ashamed of my selfishness and ungratefulness. My father never mentioned it again, nor did he show any disappointment. I think he didn't need to. The lesson was already imprinted deeply within me. I learned that generosity can be shown in many ways, and sometimes, thank you isn't enough to express gratitude. That day, all it would have taken to show my appreciation was 20 cents, and it would have been the best ice cream I ever had if I had dared to spend those 20 cents to treat my father. I'll share one more thing. On our next outing the following week, as we neared that decision point, I asked my father, "Dad, would you like an ice cream cone today?" My treat, the true glory of a person, lies not in never falling, but in rising every time they fall. Sometimes immediate gains blind us to what is truly important. Therefore, we should not let our selfishness prevent us from recognizing others' sacrifices. Gratitude should be ingrained and shown through actions, not just empty words.